Reuben, what have we finished?
We have finished Wicked Part 1.
So if you care to find me to the western sky.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Woo!
I've seen it twice now.
Part 1 plus 1.
Plus 1 plus
1 and a half.
All right.
Yeah,
right.
there's a lot to get into here.
Where do we start? We're going to do non-spoilers first, then we're going to do spoilers. I will briefly say something, then I might kick it to Ash for Wicked History. A wicked history of Oz.
The Wick history.
Nice.
Wicked history.
If folks want to listen to what Jett and I thought about the stage musical, which we saw for the first time this year, you can go to episode 42, Wicked and Jack X Combat Racing, and you can go to about 48 and a half minutes. And that might, if you haven't heard that episode, that might be a good basis, like a good, you know how someone's opinion is a bit more valuable to you if you know their baseline? That might help. That could be fun. I think it's also a fun episode, or it's not. I don't know. Jet gets annoyed about talking animals. But here we go. We're talking about the movie today.
Yeah, I'm going to get pissed off about talking
Oh,
animals
I'm
again.
so excited. That's my only note, actually.
That's very funny.
That's why I wanted to leave an hour and a half. It's just for the animals, the talking animals.
Ash, for people who don't know, can you give us, as our resident Wicked expert, can you give us a quick rundown of what Wicked is?
Okay, so Wicked is a musical from the point of view of the Wicked Witch of the West, and in this musical, she's called Elphaba. Now, the history of Wicked, I love it. Some people think it's really boring, but basically, obviously, I hope you all know The Wizard of Oz, the very famous story, The Wizard of Oz. Basically, this is the kind of awfully sad part about it, but in England I think it was early 2000s, there was a really, really horrific case. It's quite famous about these two young boys who tortured and killed a 2-year-old, and it's like a very, very famous crime story.
This is not the history of
I
Wicked
know,
I thought we were getting.
I know you. That's what I was
Yeah.
like. When I say I know the history, I know the history. But basically, it was really awful. Most people listening will be like, I know which crime story you're talking about. Like, it's really shaped a lot. Shook a lot of people because these boys were 12 years old, and the things that they did was so horrific that everyone started talking about, like, what creates wicked people, right? Like, is it nature? Is it nurture? Like, what creates this sort of, like this person that turns out to be quote unquote evil? And so this guy in particular had heard this, or the guy who wrote Wicked heard this and decided to write a book called Wicked about the experience of like how do people become evil. And in particular, he talked about labeling theory, which is, or it's called interactionalist theory. It's a sociological theory where if you basically label people as bad their whole lives, then they will have a self-fulfilling prophecy and that they will probably become bad eventually, or in what we determine what bad is, right? Like, things are relative and also subjective, right? And so what is bad to one is not bad to everyone. And so what he did was he took the story of the Wizard of Oz and was like, why would this wicked witch of the West be wicked in this like magical universe? What could her background be? And so the musical Wicked focuses on Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, and how she had sort of these, continuous labeling of being the bad person. In particular, she's green. She kind of has this almost like emotionally abusive relationship from her father. She's kind of blamed for the death of her mother and the cause of her sister becoming disabled, which, which is Glinda the Witch is very key in her like unlearning that. But yeah, it's about, this like awful kind of history that she has. She goes to university and is labeled as bad from the get-go because her skin is green, because she's different. And then also like a big part of her character is that she has this strong sense of justice, and where everyone else just wants to fit in and be part of the social norm, she keeps leaving that social norm and kind of fighting for others who are oppressed. And so it looks at like what is wickedness, and is defying the social norm an actual thing of wickedness, or like how do people get there, etc., etc. So that is the history of Wicked.
Jack, do we have a bad podcast? Is this what a good podcast is?
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, I don't think we've given a good rundown, equal to that ever. Ever.
Yeah, well, I will say the book, I haven't read it, but a lot of people I know have read it, and I now really do want to read it. Apparently is a lot more like, I want to say gory, but gory is probably not the right word. It's not as like magical as the musical is. It's a lot more like deep and like apparently there's like it's a quite adult book, like the scene at the start, which is not a spoil of Wicked the movie, it's just the story of Wicked. There's sort of like this alluding to that the mum had an affair, right? And that apparently is a lot more graphic in the book than it is at all in the musical. It's like ooh, little dance, whereas in the book it's like not maybe 50 Shades of Grey worthy, but definitely like ooh, this is saucy.
Sorry, I'm just deleting all of my notes.
Oh no, please do,
They're
because then we
just
can talk about them.
pretty simplistic in comparison. One of them says, word for word, yo, did you hear they added 2 songs for part 2? But you've just given us like a
Did
detailed
they?
sociological breakdown. Oh, see, maybe this note's good
Oh
actually.
no, that is a good no. I don't want more songs. Okay, I will start with my opinions.
Here we go.
Too fucking long. Oh my god, it was. So I think the first time I watched it, I love Wicked. I love the music. I was a bit like yes. The second time I watched it, I was like, alrighty, we could have cut that scene. We could have edited this down. Like 2.5 hours for an act one. Like this musical itself, right, is a 3 and
I got
3
the
and a
numbers
half.
for you. I'll give you one better. I got the numbers.
Yep.
Original Wicked musical, 2 hours 45 from sitting down to getting up, including intermission.
Including intermission.
2 hours 45.
Including
Not
the
as long
half
as
hour.
we kind of
Okay.
remembered it being.
Yeah.
Wicked Part 1, no interval, half the story, 2 hours 41.
That's insane.
So they've doubled it.
They've doubled.
They've
I do
actually
think
doubled
there was
it.
some really nice world building in there,
Yeah.
but I think that could have easily been a 2-hour movie.
Now-
Easily.
I, funnily enough, had the opposite experience to you because secretly I actually saw it for a second time last night.
You fucking what, mate?
I went and saw Wicked
Seriously?
again last night. And I
By yourself?
Yeah,
I love that.
actually, no, not by myself. I lied. No, I went with my sister.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, going to cinema by yourself, huge fan.
Yeah, huge fan as well.
Pairs well with seeing things multiple times, which Charles brought up earlier on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, mine pairs well with Alicia writing and saying, I'm about to see Wicked because I was.
Oh,
with her
that
at
was
the time.
I
That
should have
makes so
caught that
much
one.
sense.
Considering that you went out last night with your sibling, and when I
Yeah.
said how was it, you were like, it was good. I was like, where'd you go? You said, oh, just vibes, vibes, vibes. That's what you said, word for word.
That is what I said.
Just vibes.
Fucking
I would
liar.
have been like, ding, 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 ding. That's
Yeah,
suspicious.
yeah.
Ruben didn't realize that I was in a musical for like over a month.
Always fucking
That
suspicious.
is
So
the
the
most
radar
infuriating.
can't pick it up because it's just all hits all the time.
I still
I don't know
angry
what's
about that.
real and what's the red herring.
Oh, so good.
Or a
Anyway,
green herring.
I saw it the other day with y'all, and I thought, oh, this is a bit long. I was aware of it. And then last night when I watched it again, I was like, actually, no, this moved to the clip. I wasn't really, I was expecting to sit down knowing what was going to happen and be bored or waiting for it to end or whatever. But actually, it was not too bad at all. Yeah. I don't know if I had a better time the second time, but I had an equally good time.
Wow.
Because I fucking love this movie. And I really don't like a lot of musical adaptions.
Yeah, I know.
Famously, Jett will rant about this at the drop of a hat.
We used to do a musical night when we lived together in a house when we were in lockdown. I said live together now. When we lived together.
When we lived together on that hay bale
In
with
that
the guy down the
barn.
street.
in a shack.
Like it practically was a shack. But
I
when
mean, we
lived
got in
together,
for free, but you had to pay because we
Yes.
know the landlord from Steiner.
So when we lived in the house together, we'd have a musical night, especially lockdown, and we'd watch movie musicals, and ones that I absolutely loved, Jett fucking hated,
I
and
did.
we would argue about it all the time. So I do know Jett's absolute fucking hate of musicals, but I'm glad you really like this. I
Yeah.
do think overall it was very good. I think it's funny, the first time I watched it, I really hit the like wonder and awe of like, whoa!
Yeah.
And I was like, no criticisms.
Yeah.
Like, especially I'm really like my praise. Ariana Grande kills that
She's
role.
so. One of my notes is just she's funny as fuck.
She's
and
so funny. I think
forgot that?
she
I don't
does
know.
this character well because I think some people when they like don't know the musical well think Glinda's this meant to be like dumb ditzy idiot who like is just like, oh wow, I'm over here. But that's not her. She
Yeah.
actually is like her whole thing is like being manipulative to run the system. She wants to work within the system to get the power and the authority and the praise. And like, you know, there's like that whole bit where, you know, she kind of tricks Spock to go off with the other person. And Fiyero turns to her and is like, wow, you're good, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know what you mean. Like she knows what she's doing, right?
My
When
note is Ariana Grande is perfect for this role. She's so annoying, which I don't know if that's the same as what you're saying or the opposite.
No,
but
I think it is.
Agree with what you're saying.
She's annoying. She's
You've
like
said it better.
She's not 2D. I think that like
Yes.
Galinda can come across as this 2D character, but she actually has a lot of nuance to her, and I think she's like a real person.
When she rocks up at Wiz University, she is it no?
Shiz,
It's called
but it's
Shiz.
fine.
Sorry, my bad. She like beelines it for the head sorceress because she's like, I want to know sorcery so I can have power. She's like, that's what I need. She's not rocking up like, oh, let me flirt with some. I mean, she does flirt with some people, but she isn't like, ditzy.
She's not like, I'm too cool for school. She's
Yeah.
like, no, like if anything, she's more like the person who ends up school captain, right? Like
Yes.
they're still popular and people
Yeah.
want to be their friend, but they're also power hungry.
Yeah.
And they're like, I will be the best in
But I
everything.
also think with Ariana Grande's like portal dark eyes, there's a certain naivete that falls away towards the end of the movie. And I'm even looking forward to part 2 where kind of the chips all go down.
Yeah.
And you see her having to really make some choices between the life she wants to lead. So yeah, like yes, she's ditzy and yes, she's manipulative and yes, she's that blonde pink stereotype. But there's a certain like fundamental trust in the forces that run the world, which I'm looking forward to seeing that drop away. Maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say my other praise is the world building. I think that the whole set in general,
God,
but
yeah.
the way that like Oz is depicted, I think is really beautiful and really like detailed. I like believe it. You
Yeah.
know? And I think that's really nice as well. But
I,
I definitely have criticisms, I will say.
The whole time I was like enamored, honestly, like really enamored by the set design. I think that just after so many big blockbuster films, multi-million-dollar films, well, I mean, most films are multi-million-dollar, but you know, like fucking massive blockbusters where it just looks blurred in the background or like clearly CGI, like it's filmed on a soundstage. This, it looks like they build actual sets for most all of the scenes. And that's what I've heard as well. And it just, adds a
There's a
sense
lot of
of realism and also this sense of, I feel like it really works with the world building of, like the story of the Wizard of Oz, and the wizard specifically, is everyone thinks he's fucking magic. He's not. He's just like kind of manipulated this whole kingdom into believing that he is through his tricks and mechanics and all of that. So to have the sets be real, I don't know, lends itself to that in
I
the
agree.
magic of movie making, and also when you look back at the original Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
The beautiful magic
I
for
think
that.
that the lighting doesn't support the set design. I agree with everything that you're saying.
Do you mean undersaturated? I've heard a lot of people comment that. Like the color seems weak.
Don't know enough about color theory, but I do know that you can go with either naturalistic lighting, like a Roger Deakins film like 1917 or something, or a Terrence Malick film, or you can go with like a very particular type of saturation motivated lighting that's part of the set design, like Blade Runner, those kind of worlds.
Yeah.
And this does neither. It just lights everything in a way where I was, with one exception, never struggling to see anything, so it kind of goes by without notice. But I finished it and I had a sense that the whole film was like just slightly glazed with this slightly, not blown out, but just very even white daylight lighting that was always, there was not quite enough shadows or contrast to bring out what was real about the sets. So I feel like there's so many moving parts in a thing like this. There's practical effects, special effects, set, actors, dancers, moving camera often, because it's so lavish in that way. And I feel like lighting was done in a way that it just lit that in a very straightforward way, which is understandable, but it put this layer of like a separation, like glad wrap between me and the film. So I lost some of the effect of the real sets, which are really admirable.
Is your one exception the song "What Is This Feeling"?
Is that the one that's in nighttime?
No, that's the one where they're fighting.
When they're
that's
fighting.
a good song.
Because that has like Ariana Grande's lamp lighting pink, and it has the Glinda's lamp lighting pink, and it has the split shots.
They're nice.
And it has them moving throughout that, and I don't know, the contrast of the green versus the pink is very much.
I would need to
highlighted in
watch it again. That might be an exception. The one that I noticed was when they first go to, am I saying spoilers? No, see the wizard. They step through an archway that's clearly real, and the light is just slightly darker. They didn't have enough side light, which is fine. It feels like they're really in that space. But because the rest of the film is so consistent, my brain like tripped a switch, and I was like, I can't see them. Why is it dark?
that's a good point.
But actually, I think if there was a bit more of that, it would have felt like I felt like they were there.
Yeah.
But I felt it in a different way to the shots just before
Felt
and
like
after.
there was a lot of purpose to the shadows as well. It's like if you're gonna really drastically change the lighting, like do it in a way that feels like, I can understand the symbolism here. But it didn't really like I get like maybe where it could have come from, but it didn't hit that way, you know?
Yeah, but look, I'm nitpicking because overall the production design really supports the story without distracting, but it's also not underthought. Like, it's pretty impressive.
What do you think of the dancing and the choreography?
I like the dancing. I actually think that here, because of the longer runtime and because you can do takes instead of having every actor on stage for 45 minutes, you can do more impressive dancing. And I also, a lot of the time, caught myself noticing the dancing in a way that I normally wouldn't in a musical, which I loved because it was weird dancing in the same way that the costumes are weird, the language they use is slightly shifted from English. They were doing things that didn't quite fit into ballet, didn't quite fit into like a Merce Cunningham modern, postmodern dance aesthetic. And so it felt like it was somehow from the world of Oz. So I was actually really impressed by the dancing, which I normally would have nothing to say about for a film like this.
I agree. I think that something I really like, because I've been listening to the original soundtrack a lot since, because I've got to admit, I do like that soundtrack because it's just, you know, it hits my heart better. But I do appreciate the music. But I think what I like in the adaptation of this movie is they've added in a lot more like beats, and it's a bit more, I would say, like modern, but I don't know, that's less like weak of a saying for music, right? But it has this where like you can do a bit more with it choreographically. You know what I'm saying?
Choreographically.
Thank you.
It's hard.
It's a long word. And I'm a teacher. Anyway, but basically I feel like there is a lot more you can do with it, because I was listening back to Dancing Through Life, which I think has
Which is 9 minutes and 47
so
seconds.
long. But I do think in the movie, the choreography for that is just like quite... like it's quite appealing. Like it looks quite nice. But I do think listening back to the original soundtrack, I was trying to picture the choreography from the movie into the original soundtrack, and it actually doesn't fit as well, because it's a lot more waltzy. It's a little more like there's a lot of piano, a lot of flow. Like it doesn't have this sort of like beats and like these sort of sharpness and like real accents to the music that allows you to have that sort of more like interesting and interpretive like sort of type of dance within a movie like this. So I thought it was really well adapted for a movie.
I think those changes made it feel more kinetic, Reuben.
I'll allow it.
Great. Reuben has a thing of likes movies that feel kinetic. Can't really explain it better than that, than just saying the word kinetic. But,
I get it.
I think that this felt kinetic. It seemed like a lot of the length comes from extending choreography, which I mean I personally really enjoyed, and also adding spaces into scenes, not padding necessarily, but allowing moments, time to breathe, which is lovely. When I was first watching it, I was on the edge of my seat though, and those moments felt like fucking hours.
Yeah.
The scene, there's a scene in a ballroom club thing where Alphaba is doing her thing of being kind of weird, and everyone's like, why are you kind of weird? And there are these awkward moments, and they seem to last fucking forever. And I was like, Jesus Christ, someone do something or say something. But it really, I don't know, it helped having that. And those moments, which maybe it's an emotional moment, maybe it's an awkward moment, whatever it may be, that they provided, I feel like those would normally get cut for runtime. You know, let's make it move at a clip. We need to fit as many sessions into the cinema as possible to maximize money, whatever. But I'm just baffled by the fact that like the editing paired with the production, paired with the amount of weight that they were able to give to dancing, and just all of the good, it has all of the good things that I'm surprised that it has all of the good things is what I'm trying to say.
Like in that particular scene that you're talking about, the musical, like, I don't know if this is a spoiler about the actual musical, but basically Alphaba walks out, you know, she's being made fun of. Yeah. And in the stage musical, she starts to be weird almost immediately, right? As like a defense, like, oh my God, I've been caught out. I'm going to be weird, right? And there's that whole line of, she doesn't care what anyone thinks. And Glinda says, no, of course she cares. But when I watch the musical, I've always been like, oh, no, like, I mean, she cares, but she's also like, no, I'm going to show you. And this was the first time I watched it where I was like, this is horrific. Like, you really felt
it was
her
awful.
be like, I am being made fun of, and there's only one thing I can do, which is to sort of like take control of this moment. But like you said, right, like it feels like forever and no one's joining in, and it almost feels worse and worse, which is so much more realistic, right? Like in real life, people aren't like, oh, you know what? Isn't she confident? They're like, what are you doing, you weirdo? Though I will say, actually, because I'm going to get into some criticisms, it's actually one of the things that I didn't like about this depiction of Elphaba. Do I think that Cynthia is absolutely amazing as like a singer, as an actor, 100%. And I think there's some really good moments in this movie that I really appreciate her acting. However, to me, Elphaba has this like such strong sense of justice and a misreading of social cues that she is often really linked like well with the autistic community. Like a lot of autistic people really find that Elphaba is the perfect like portrayal of female autism traits, right? Or like the way that they often like get characterized within women who have autism, right? And it comes across in scenes where like Dr. Dillamar is being sort of that there's a big usually like a scene where he's getting quite like I guess it's almost like racial profiling or like but it's again this, I guess speciesist, right? But in the musical, she often like she goes a bit too far, right? Like in her like trying to solve the problem, that she comes across quite aggressive. And even there's other scenes where like when she rocks up to Shiz, right, and she usually has this line that's like, "No, I haven't eaten grass. No, I didn't do this," and it's very like, she kind of like misreads a lot of the vibes that are going on, and she comes across quite defensive really quickly, and it like again that sense of justice, which is really, really strong within autistic women. But it's like there is no black and whiteness. So there's no grayness. It is this black and white, like what is right and what is wrong. Now, admittedly, I do agree with a lot of Elphaba. I'm not saying she's wrong. But I didn't feel this kind of like real like awkward, because not just is she green, she's also socially a bit different from the rest, right? Which whether that is autistic, whether that is her socialization growing up and being ostracized by kids, whatever that is, right? She has this like defensiveness and this strongness, and I feel like this Elphaba was almost too demure, like she was too like without that TikTok reference, but like she's very like in herself, and her sense of justice comes across more of like, this is wrong. Why are we not doing anything? And it's like, no, like you need to be standing up. You need to be yelling at people. And even when she becomes friends with Galinda, there's still that like misread, and Galinda's a bit like, girl, calm down. Like you are embarrassing us. And she can't read that. She can't see it, which is why she goes against the whole thing at the end. That's why she makes this decision to not follow the crowd, because that is who she is to her core. Whereas in this, it was almost like, I finally got there. And it's like, no. I mean, yes, there is part of that in the musical, but she always has this to her core. And so if she agreed with the wizard, she'd be absolutely defying like her core of a character. Whereas this, I didn't feel that strongness from her. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with some of that, and I'll get into, I guess, that end bit and the turn of her character that comes, I mean, just before the intermission in the stage show. In spoilers, because I'm keen to talk about that. That has me rethinking a lot.
We're probably ready for spoilers.
I want to say a couple of quick things. One critique that I have is I have a note here that just says, "Wow, can Michelle Yeoh not sing?" She's great in the role, but clearly like. She has a bit where she sings a little bit to Elphaba, and then Elphaba's singing immediately after. And for a moment, I forgot that this had people in it who could sing, and that's what they were cast for. Because just hearing Cynthia sing immediately after Michelle Yeoh, I was like, oof, that was bad.
It's the Pierce Brosnan effect.
You have to have one, right?
Yeah.
You have to have
Makes
one.
everyone else shine.
I don't know, but I feel like in that movie, I noticed that not one female presenting person has any wrinkles. I was like, wow, we really have stopped aging, haven't we? That's a thing that Hollywood's done. I was like, imagine being 65 with the smoothest face you've ever seen in your life.
Something magic.
Of women.
Oh, the magic of Oz.
I do have one more criticism, but I think this is just a criticism of adaptations of musicals.
Okay.
It's just like the
And then I have one more.
popification of some songs. Like
Oh my God.
the little riffs in some of the it just ruins the true meaning of the musical. And I will say this is like when I first watched it, so my friend, you guys know Sauce, my friend, really hates when people add like riffs and like fun little bits that
It's a lot of
show off
that.
their vocal technique because they're like, this is key to the character, blah, 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 blah. The first time I watched it, I said, no, there isn't that. The second time I watched it, I said, I will eat my words. There is so much of that. And I think a key one that I really noticed is in Defying Gravity at the end. She goes, never gonna bring in the musical. That is like real hard hitting every single note.
Yeah.
In this, she goes, never gonna bring, and it does a little run. And I'm like, why? Right? Like I understand, and look, I
like,
feel it. It feels good. It like you go, oh wow, that's pretty. But in this moment, she is standing up and saying, you will listen to me. And if you put a run in it, you like musically ruin the point of the way it's written. And there's a lot of that, like the song, oh my God, I've blanked on the name of the song, where she basically realizes, oh, maybe I do love the guy, right? I'm trying to work out what's spoilers and what's not. But basically, I do think like that song has so many like pretty little bits in it that I'm like emotionally,
It
like
lost me.
Yeah, it really lost me. I was
too.
like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you just went, oh my God, I am crushing inside because this man will never love someone like me. Because that's what that song is. Like, this man will never love someone like me. He will only love someone who is the stereotypical person that he is meant to love. And I am dying inside, and I understand my place in this universe, but it is crushing to be reminded. I didn't feel any of that.
No,
I was just like, she sang a pretty
went
song.
to sleep in that song.
Yeah, agreed.
Not literally.
No, I
didn't like Popular, I'll say it. This
didn't
version's
like
less
Popular?
good. There's this thing that they're doing where they're lengthening the songs. There's more room for choreography. There's more room for vocal play. There's more room to move the camera around the characters. And for some of them, that works. But for Popular, for the song where she can't fall in love with a guy, and I'll say it, for Defying Gravity, the space within them loses the... Musicals famous for their melodrama, right? They're big ramping up in the pre-chorus and then hitting it. And by stretching it out so much, you lose the drive.
Yeah, Defying Gravity especially. Like that song's meant to build.
Yeah.
And all it does is you get to the build and it
stops.
drops off. And then you have to get back to the build and then it drops off. It's exhausting.
I didn't mind it because I really like all the little character moments between it and like really feeling this. I don't know. It's in Defying Gravity, the moments between Alphaba and Glinda, and I don't know, just how awful that situation is.
Sorry,
you're making a face.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Physical pain.
I think that so the bits where it drops, that is in the musical. The I hope you're happy, that part, that's in it, right? What is not good is okay, we're getting into spoilers. So
Okay, we're doing
folks.
spoilers
We're doing
now.
spoilers.
We've already
Spoiler warning.
spoiled so much of this movie.
don't
I feel like we haven't spoiled anything.
We have.
nothing that would be crazy. Nothing that's like, what? Now I didn't know that. But I think this is where he spoilers, right?
Yeah.
So just before one of the big moments, she jumps out a fucking window and then stares at herself in the window as a child.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, not needed. Like, it is in the context.
Snooze fest.
Or at least it
What?
goes too long. Like, if she had maybe a quick flash of her in the window, and then I would be like, all right. But it loses. The point is she's got the power. She hasn't lost it yet. She has already felt that power. We understand why. You don't need this symbolism. And then the part where she goes back into the sky and sings Unlimited again, like in this like soft voice, right?
Yeah.
You're like, what again? She's already there. Like, just get there. Like, it really, the soft bits in the song are musically written that way in the musical already that bring it back down. But that build where she gets to the end gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this, it didn't feel. I felt like I collapsed every single time to get back to a build, but it didn't feel it anymore because I'd already lost the build.
Look, I still cried by the end of Defying Gravity both times, so I'm like, you still got me.
I do think, sorry, I know I've talked a bit about
Fine. That's why you're here. It's
The
a podcast.
Wizard and I.
Ash, you're allowed on the podcast. You're not allowed to speak.
allowed to speak.
Sit there.
The Wizard and I think, was where I noticed that it didn't hit the same. I think her voice is very pretty and very amazing, but it's very controlled. And I think something that Idina Menzel has that's really like good is her voice feels like she's putting power into it. Like I feel like she's like, yes, I am here and I am singing for me, right? Whereas I feel like this was very just like nice. Like the Wizard and I was like, that's a nice little song. Look at her little song. This is not my criticism, but Sauce's criticism, and they will be upset with me if I don't put this in the podcast.
Okay.
We'll make sure to cut it.
Make sure to cut it out. Sauce found The Wizard and I lost the purpose of the song because it started to focus so heavily on the world building that it took away that this is actually like more than almost, I always say more, but like just as much as Defying Gravity.
Yeah.
This is her coming into this. For the first time ever, she's been recognized as someone who has validity in this society, right? Who has a place in this society. And the way that they world builded it, I guess, could have been clever. But instead it was like, look at these little froggies. And she's going to hop on this and I'm looking at colourfuls. And look, admittedly, I think the colour was obviously about her trying to fit into the colours within the world.
I really like the colour bit.
The colour bit's not too bad, but I just think
I was looking at the cave and the grass and the desert.
Yes, exactly, right? You're so much focused on the world around her that it took the focus away from
Especially
her.
when at the end, her turn to say, actually, I don't want the wizard anymore. I can't want that because it goes against my beliefs. It's like, wait, were you really obsessed with the wizard before? Like, how much was this important to you? Oh yeah, you had this whole song of the Wizard and I, but I don't remember it because you were staring at a big stone face of Jeff Goldblum. Which, like, you might click, oh, that's because she cares. No, I'm like, wow, they really got that real accurate to his face.
I just don't feel like they did the song justice. I think because, like, that song is a great depiction of, like, real humans, right? Like, where if you've been ostracized your whole life, you do get this attitude of, like, you know what, I don't need you. I've done my whole life without it. But when you get given that privilege and you go, oh, my God, for the first time ever, I may be the one who's accepted. I may be able to get the thing that everyone else in this world, like, very capitalist, right? Like, oh, now I have the money, right? Well, I get to do what I want with it. Yeah. I think it really took away from that like feeling originally of, oh my God, I might be accepted. Like she has that really great line where she's like, you know, he might even say, you know what, I understand that everyone doesn't like you being green, so I'm gonna take it away from you. But you know, that's not important to me. Like, and it really shows deep down she so desperately wants to fit in, and it's all she actually cares about. Yeah. But you don't hear any of that because I'm looking at silly little frogs and some little hangly diddly lights and a stupid statue of Jeff Goldblum. And it's like, why are we not honed into her? I don't know. I'm not a film director. I don't know if I haven't got any ideas, but I'd love another team who does have ideas to be like, how can we refocus this song?
Hear that, Wicked team? You don't have enough ideas and all your ideas were bad.
Gang, we got time for like a final thought on Wicked if we have one.
I'm looking at my thoughts. I have way more than that.
String them together cleverly.
Okay, I'm just going to say them in one sentence.
Ash, if we notice a change... Oh, one sentence is fine. If you... go ahead.
Can't breathe.
At the start, someone is riding away after the witch is dead. Is that her? Also, we have the Dorothy crew. I didn't realize that when I watched the movie for the first time. This bubble that Glinda is riding on sucks and is way worse than the stage one, even though I thought the stage one originally sucked. Also, Alphaba isn't enrolled in the school, which is a change that I kind of like. And also, Loathing / that song that I can't remember the name of, the one that's about loathing. It's so fun and very flirty. Also,
well done.
Well, hello, Flynn Rider / Brendan Urie. And also, this library is not weather resistant at all, which is, you'd think it would be. This is an all animal band. I guess that makes sense why the club is kind of illegal. The audacity of this new history teacher is fucking wild to have just had the old animal teacher kicked out and then bring in an animal that is in a cage. Also, you're meant to be a history teacher.
Also
this is
start
history.
in the middle of of a lesson. He doesn't introduce himself, he just starts.
It doesn't make any sense. It's hard for the Emerald City to be magic when everything else already looks so magical. Like, this is meant to be a big wow, but it's still kind of wow. You seem to have a point on that. Ash, would you like to interject?
I have 3 really quick points. One, if you didn't notice, they have an amazing way of incorporating disabled people in a great way that's not ableist. I love the purposeful put of little people in this show without making them munchkins, right? Like without that kind of stereotypical history, but they're still incorporated. And these, like, in this magic world, there are still people with disabilities and they are just as valid in this world. That's what I thought about the Emerald City. My other 2 real quick points. I love these tiny little edits that they did, and 2 of them, they're both Ariana Grande points. It's the part in Loathing where she goes, well, I hate your face, or whatever it is. Like, that line is excellent and well placed, and I really love the line, as much as you don't like Popular, where she's like, don't make me laugh, they were, and then Cynthia goes, Popular, and she's like, what?
That's good.
Such a good add to the movie, and really, really good depictions. Keep going.
Thank you. Okay, that's great. Wizard Bible, question mark? Was that always in the show? Did it have a name? Was it called The Grimoire? Crazy. The monkey scene is very brutal and
So
fucking
scary.
rips my heart out. Yeah, very scary. Damn, I forgot that this was a tragedy. I was having so much fun at our great wizarding school and all the loveliness. And then, oh yeah, fuck, all of this is bad and part 2 is going to be even sadder. Blah, 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 blah. My last note is, why is every Nessa song shot reverse shot? Every other song has fun, interesting camera work and choreography, and every bit where Nessa is singing, it's just shot her face, reverse shot to other person, shot back at Nessa as she sings. It's so fucking boring.
It's a bit boring. Poor Nessa, bad depiction. I mean,
Bad.
she's a bit of a crap character. But
Yeah.
that's for another day.
Those are my notes. Ruben, do you have what? Did you
Yeah,
do
I got a
notes?
final thought. I just got to pick
Oh yeah, I
one
forgot
off
we
the
were doing
list.
final thoughts.
Which is that I think the first shot of this movie goes unnecessarily hard, and I also think they're going to reuse it at the end of part 2. But I just love it because I was coming in like, what? How ambitious are they going to pitch this thing, right? How much is this going to be like, we've got a bold vision for this, and how much is it like, we sold out and we want to make $1 billion? And it's like a Zack Snyder-esque shot that pans up. So I was both worried and excited to like the witch's hat, and then comes up and then goes through the shattered window, follows multiple flying monkeys, pans upward towards a cliff with a waterfall and a rainbow, up and over the tulips, and then all the way down into the Munchkinland village. And I was like, I don't think I like it, but I like that it makes it's doing something. And I just enjoyed the like, okay, whatever happens in the next 2 hours is gonna be wild.
They're like, we are here.
We're in fucking Oz, everyone.
And we're going to
Strap
make you
in.
know it.
You won't bloody forget it.
Ash, do you have any final thoughts on Wicked Part 1?
I would say that despite all the criticisms I gave it, it is a very, very excellent movie and probably one of the best stage to movie adaptations of a musical I have ever seen.